25 on our surface roads. When you make a turn, do it at 5 miles per hour. And another phrase that I see often is that reports of a driver that is impaired, drinking and driving, or on drugs. Often it is these phrases together, because being impaired leads to bad decisions. As I always say, if you plan on drinking, you're in the greatest city in the world when it comes to getting home safely. Go out and have a good time and hail a TLC licensed vehicle. Whether it's a yellow or a green cab, whether it's a community car service or a for-hire vehicle like Uber and Lyft, you have 100,000 options in New York City. We have 4 days left in the year. In the last 4 days of last year, we had 10 people die in crashes. This year, as we are in the final 4 days, let's make that a big zero. I want to again thank Commissioner Rodriguez for allowing us and leading our charge. And enjoy your holiday, and thank you so much for allowing me to be here today. Thank you so much, Commissioner.
Thank you. Thank you. Now we will hear two great leaders in Albany, Commissioner John and also Simon. They will come and say a few words.
Thank you, Commissioner Rodriguez. I am very appreciative of the Adams administration, these leaders, and especially Transportation Commissioner Rodriguez for their efforts. I like the way he put it. Engineering, education, and enforcement. And there's certainly been a lot of engineering across the city to make our streetscapes safer for people. The education, which today's event is a little bit a part of, is also helping to make people more aware of how to keep themselves and others safe on our streets in New York City. And then, of course, there's enforcement, which is necessary. I hope that the enforcement is not as necessary, given that we're having this announcement and that there will be enough deterrent effect out there. But if there are any bad apples, and, most New Yorkers play by the rules, but there are sometimes some bad apples out there who will do the highly irresponsible thing of drinking and then getting behind a steering wheel in a car. That puts not only their own lives at risk, it puts the entire public in danger, and that has to be stopped. And that's why our police and our commissioners are here today making this announcement. I fully support them. I also thank them for their advocacy to support legislation that Assemblymember Simon and I are spearheading in Albany to toughen the drunken driving laws, because for too long the threshold for blood alcohol content has been at 0.08%. It needs to be lowered to 0.05%. That is what over 100 nations around the world have already done, recognizing that people start to lose their cognitive and motor skills at 0.05, and that the limit has to be lowered to that. So I feel very confident and hopeful that we will pass that legislation in Albany this year, so that we will give our enforcement and city partners more tools to, again, keep people safe. As a proud New Yorker, I'm very happy about the New Year celebrations that we have in this great city. In fact, the whole world celebrates with us. Everywhere in the world, they watch the ball drop at Times Square. And yet, we have to make sure that the people of New York City are safe. That's exactly what we're trying to do. Have a good time on New Year's Eve. Just don't get behind the steering wheel of a car. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Commissioner and Commissioner. I really want to thank the administration for its support of this work. Years and years ago, the communities in and around downtown Brooklyn, which I now represent, led the charge for traffic calming, and everybody thought we were crazy because we said if you do things to the street, you will communicate that, in fact, you need to go slower here. It's about keeping our communities safe. And the city DOT has come to realize that this is, in fact, an important part. And so the engineering is really about sending a signal. I can talk about that as being kind of behavior modification for drivers. Unfortunately, those engineering signals don't come through when somebody is driving impaired. And we know that there is just far too much drunk driving because of the reports that we've heard about today. And we know that often people combine substances. And here is the thing about drunk driving that we know that we don't know about certain levels of certain chemicals otherwise might impair people. And that is that we know at .05 there are cognitive and psychomotor slowing. We know that, we can document that, and we already have .08 on the books, so .05, very easy to administer and enforce. We just have to pass the law to do that. When it comes to other substances, we don't yet know enough, and we don't have a test for those things. And there are many, many substances. So I believe that we need to address both issues, and too often people are using both substances. But we know about alcohol, and we can address that issue. And if we keep people from drinking, we will stop them from very often using other substances as well. So what's critical here is that we have history. We know that New York used to be a leader in this when we went down to .08. Now it's time for New York to lead again at .05. Right now, the only state, but a lot of states considering this, Utah has done it. And in fact, Utah, you might think they don't have that much drinking there. Actually, they do. And the reality is, one of the things we've learned from an American state is that while the bar and restaurant industry might be concerned that they would lose business, business went up. And that has been the case throughout the world, including places with pretty strong drinking cultures like England and Ireland. Nothing has affected the bar and restaurant industry. In fact, engagement and drinking has increased. It's just that people are finding a safe way home. And as the commissioner said, in New York, you have hundreds of choices of ways that you can get home safely. I encourage all New Yorkers to do that and to have a very happy, healthy, and safe New Year. Thank you.
Thank you. So to close this part, we have Alex Slakery from AAA, who's been also a great partner with us.
Thank you, Commissioner. And every year at AAA, we do a forecast of how many people are going to be on the roads during different holiday seasons. And we know this is going to be the busiest holiday period of the year. More than 103 million Americans are going to be on the roads. But we also know, unfortunately, that too many of those folks are not going to come home due to a reckless decision to drive drunk, speed, drive impaired by some other substance, or any of the many, unfortunately, very dangerous behaviors that we see on our roads all the time. We've been going in the wrong direction as a country when it comes to traffic safety. In 2021, which is the last year of data that we have, 13,384 people lost their lives in crashes that were related to alcohol-impaired driving. And that's the most since 2006. And why are we going in the wrong direction? We do surveys every year. We call it the AAA Traffic Safety Culture Index, looking at what Americans think about different reckless behaviors and what they're actually doing on the roads. And virtually everybody agrees. Drunk driving is dangerous behavior. That's probably the behavior that when we survey, everyone agrees that's dangerous. But unfortunately, 1 in 15 drivers in that survey admits to having gotten behind the wheel at least once in the past 30 days when they thought they might have been close to the legal limit. And 1 in 30 drivers said they did so more than once. So we've got a real epidemic of deadly traffic safety behaviors on our hands. When you're out drinking and you have a few cocktails, the last thing you want to do is a math problem to say, oh, I had this many drinks and it's been this many hours and this is the rate and this is my body weight. No. If you're drinking, plan to not drive. And if you're driving, plan to not drink. They don't mix. And it's not an acceptable behavior anywhere in the country, but especially in New York City. We've got the best transit in the country, the most transit options, trains, buses, ferries, trams. We've got more for hire vehicle drivers and taxi drivers than anywhere else in the country. So you have options here. And of course, your option is also always get a designated driver. That's true anywhere. So we see drivers on our roads that break down, and we're there to help them on the side of the road. And our police officers are in the same position. Our DOT workers are in the same position. Firefighters, ambulance workers. When they're on the side of the road, we want people to slow down and move over to give them some space. And too often we see when that doesn't happen, when a crash occurs, the driver is impaired, whether by alcohol or some other substance. So we want to thank our partners at the NYPD for their enforcement efforts this holiday season, and certainly all the folks at the TLC for all the work they do, and of course DOT and our partners in the state legislature for raising awareness of this critical issue. So if you're going to drink,